But I went to Hank Jr.'s house. He wanted to go hunting. He said, you ever been hunting before? I'm like, oh, yeah. Lie. But it was a disaster.
We are in here today for a special episode with my friend, Mr. Joe Nichols. Joe, thank you for coming out here and doing this with us. We're out here at Johnny Cash's place. You can see the one piece at a time car in there behind Joe.
Man, I'm honored to be here with you. Thank you very much. And it's a very special place. Appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you coming out here, especially as busy you've been. You said you just come from the studio.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, we've been working on some of the new stuff. We're about 4 or 5 songs into the new album. Really country stuff. I shared one thing with you. But yes, the studio is a little bit mind zapping for me. I kind of get in the studio, and after singing repetitively for about 5 straight hours, my voice is a little raw, and my brain is even worse.
Yeah.
So I hope I make sense.
Oh, yeah. I understand. Well, what you did send me was, it was great. Straight, hardcore country. Yeah,
man. That's kind of what I want to do with this record. I always get people that say, I used to love his older stuff and wish Joe would go back and do, the Broken Heartsville and What's a Guy Got to Do, Tequila. And, over the years, I agree. I want to do that stuff too, but as the format changes, as everybody changes, leadership at record labels change, personnel and radio has always made the world go round. And it's really hard to walk that tightrope of, I want to be the guy I feel like being, which is traditional country. But man, you gotta find that place that you can fit an old school sound like that into the fresh, today's radio.
Right.
And so with this album, I don't really give a damn anymore about, those kind of rules. And I just want to make some good old school country music. And that's kind of the path we're on.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to see that path widening. It seems like a lot of that is coming back.
Yeah.
It's in the younger guys too,
Yeah. It's funny. I think the younger guys have helped me, for me to break through with something traditional country would not be nearly as easy as it is for like a Zach Top,
right?
Who's doing, some traditional country stuff. And in a weird way, it's opened doors back up for me.
Yeah.
When they tell me you're too country for radio, you got to compromise. You got to, sing the Sunny and 75s, which I love that song, by the way. But, I can't have a catalog full of those because I don't think that represents me. And so when I put out songs like Billy Graham's Bible and some of the real country stuff, Broken Heart, and some of the real country stuff that I've done, that's the resistance right there immediately. It's just too country. It's just not a format that really has traditional country anymore. And Zach Top's kind of kicked that door down for us, and it's kind of let this old guy back in.
Yeah. Well, I tell you did a thing a while back that I just so appreciated, and I tell people about it all the time. When you were doing the Monday Merle on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Man, I tell people nobody can sing Merle like Joe Nichols.
Man, I appreciate that. We had a lot of fun with that. I think that started with COVID. We were trying to figure out a way to engage fans because we couldn't go out on the road and fans couldn't go see a show. So we just did something that felt like a no-brainer. We got together, my guitar player and I, and sometimes just me, and we figured we'd give the people at home something to maybe focus on instead of the misery of that pandemic. So something good came out of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
Thank you.
I'm assuming Merle was one of your big influences coming up.
Sure was. Yeah, him and Keith Whitley and Randy Travis, Don Williams, George Strait. But Merle was my all-time favorite. When I was maybe 11 years old, 12 years old, I would have his tapes. I saved up money to buy my first guitar. It was a Harmony electric guitar. I didn't have an amp or anything like that. I went to this little pawn shop. I think it was like $35 or $40, and bought this little Harmony electric guitar and started teaching myself string by string how to play. I knew a little bit from my dad, but one of the guys I just sang to all the time as an 11-year-old was Merle Haggard. You know,
Yeah.
my high voice, you know, and he's got this deep voice, and but just kind of learning, you know, how, you know, the way he pronounced his words, you know, and the grit, how he held notes, you know, just learned how to be a baritone singer, I think, just from doing that at early age, you know, mimicking him.
Yeah. Did you ever get to work with him any?
Yeah, I got to, well, not really work with him. I've done shows. I did a few shows with him while he was still alive. Back in 2004 or 5, Buck Owens did this big event out at the Crystal Palace in Bakersfield. And that was the first time I met Merle. It was one of the most surreal moments of my life. You know, I just idolized him from like I said, from early years. And so Buck Owens did this event where he built these 10 bronze statues of 10 of the biggest country music icons in history. And it was Garth Brooks, it was George Jones, Merle Haggard, George Strait, Willie Nelson, Buck Owens.
Wow.
Ray Price maybe, and a couple more. But he had everybody that he could have that was still alive out at the show. I think Willie was the only one that couldn't make it that was still alive. But it was a great night. Merle came over down from from Shasta, and Ray Benson, Sleep at the Wheel, he was there. And Buck Owens, of course, George Jones. It was the night that Garth proposed to Trisha Yearwood.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was a great night. And it was me and Dirks were kind of the young guys that were going to do all the songs while these guys kind of watched the show. So Jones and Haggard and Buck, they're all watching us play their songs.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, I don't think I've ever been in a moment in my life that was that intimidating.
I couldn't imagine.
It was terrifying. But, you know, Merle was great. Like, when I first met him, I'm sure I just kind of stuttered like an idiot, like, oh, my God, this is my hero. I can't believe I'm talking to you. And he's like, come with me. He grabs me by the arm. He puts me in his car. He's got a Hummer. And he sets me in the front seat. You know, his wife's sitting in the back. And he starts putting CDs in and starts playing music, stuff that he was currently working on and stuff that he wrote and he dug up out of somewhere, you know, from 10 years ago. And he starts telling me stories behind these songs. He starts talking about the stuff that I've done. Mind you, I haven't said maybe 4 words to him.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in his car just like starstruck. And I'm floored that he's taken the interest, the time to talk to me and kind of go in depth about himself. And he invested time into getting to know who I was. So he was telling me about my music, which was just another level of, you know, I don't know. It was incredible. That went on for about an hour, and his tour manager, I hope this is okay. I'm telling a long story.
Go ahead.
His tour manager, Frank Mull, come and knocked on the window, and he said, "Hey, the only guy there that had a bus there at this event was Dierks Bentley." And you know, I flew out, and I was, you know, at the hotel, and several other guys drove down and everything. And so, but Dierks was actually out there touring out in California. And so Frank Mull, Merle's tour manager, said, Dierks has invited everybody to come hang on his bus, you know, so we're not out here just kind of meandering around. But this is before the show. We had the show all after this. And so we're like, yeah, let's go hang out with Merle. You know, I knew Dierks a little bit, or hang out with Dierks. I knew Dierks a little bit. And so Merle, me, Ray Benson, we all climb up on Dierks's bus, and Merle just went straight for the captain's chair. He went straight over to the table like he owned the place, you know. And me and Dierks are kind of the new kids, and we just sat in the front lounge like a couple of toddlers. And Merle sat down, and Ray sat down. Ray's about 6'8" or something. And they started talking, you know, about this and that. They started talking about Bob Wills, and Merle pulls out of his pocket this big Crown Royal bag full of weed. Like a big bag like that. I was like, wow, I didn't think you could do that. And then out of this pocket, he pulls out this big pipe, and he just started packing this pipe right there as he's telling these stories. And at that time, Dierks was leasing his bus, and you're not allowed to have any of that stuff on a bus when you lease. And so they'll fine you for all the cleaning and everything like that. And so Merle lights this big pipe up, and this smoke's going everywhere, and Dierks has kind of got that sweat kind of coming down his brow, like, oh, how do I tell him, you know, hey, can you not do that? I'm like, yeah, just let it go. There's nothing we can do about this. So it was it was awesome. We sat there and listened to some amazing stories and got extremely stoned just from sitting in the room, man. We were like, oh no, we got to go play. We got to go play a show, and they're just going to have fun. And we're over here like, am I talking? Am I okay? Now we're going to go on stage. But that was a fun deal, man. What a night that was. Yeah.
I saw someone had shared something a while back talking about Willie, saying that he liked to get young acts stoned out of their mind before they had to go on stage just to mess with them.
Man, I never smoked weed with Willie, but I tell you what, Gary Allan. I'm sorry to throw you under the bus here, Gary. You're probably going to see this. Probably wouldn't mind me telling this though. The only guy that really has ever made me question my existence in the world is Gary Allan and his whatever he does to his weed. Because another funny story. I guess I can tell that later. but yeah, I won't ever do that again. That was insane.
You can go ahead and tell it.
Okay.
I mean, we got all the time.
So this is, mind you, 20 years ago, maybe 2005 or something. And we were playing on a festival together. There was maybe 20 artists on this day, 15 or 20 artists on this big festival. And where all the buses park, you had, 30 buses maybe out there. And everybody's kind of got a black bus. They're all somewhat similar. There's a few that are white and whatnot. But everybody's pretty much got a black bus. I got a black bus, and Gary does too. And Gary comes over and he goes, hey, man, come over to the bus. I got this new contraption for smoking weed. And I'm like, I'm not much of a weed smoker. I'm like, okay, yeah, all right. We're sitting down, kicking around. This is after the show. And I go back to his bus, and he's got this thing called a volcano. It's this big cellophane, plastic-looking volcano. And I don't know what he did, but he get up all this smoke in there, and it's, to protect your throat from all the smoking. And so I get in there and just apparently inhale a lot. And he's like, oh no, I wouldn't have done that. And so I'm thinking I'm pretty tough. I'm like, I can handle this. I'm a pro. I was not a pro. About 10 minutes later, I'm like, I've got to go. I got to go. This is wrong. And, they kind of laughed. I was, like I said, I was not much into smoking weed or anything like that. And this is why, because it really, I guess, really affects me greatly. And I walked off the bus, and I guess I got to get to my bus so where I can get in bed, before I can just start breathing again. Everything's nuts. And I walk off the bus, and the first thing I saw was 30 black buses. I was like, oh no, I have no idea which one's mine. And so I just walk up and start knocking on buses like, is this my bus? I've had to knock on 10 doors, and they're like, what, are you okay? What are you doing? What are you doing? Like, I'm sorry, I'm just looking for my bus. I'm super high. I don't know what to do about this. But yeah, it was fun. I'll never do that again. I never did that again after that with Gary.
Were you playing?
I'd already played.
Oh,
so
good.
He and I both were already done with our shows, and so it was kind of a wind down. Whoever the headliner was on that night was on, and we were kind of just letting the evening go. But yeah, I will never do that. I would advise anybody, don't smoke weed with Gary Allan, because I think Willie might even hesitate for that. Maybe. Yeah.
I only met Gary one time, and I was a teenager. It was after a show, and I met him back at his bus, and he invited me on the bus. I stepped on with him, and he was fixing a crowning coat.
Yeah.
I was like 16 years old, but cool guy. I mean, just one of the most down-to-earth people I think I've ever met.
Yeah. Gary's always a great guy. Loves him some old school country music, and one of the things I always loved about Gary, we were managed by the same guy for a little while. And I love when artists do it their way, no questions asked. He kind of had a vision.
Yeah.
He knew the sound he wanted. He liked things run a certain way. And, that guy's had a heck of a career, a very unconventional career.
Yeah.
And so, but that's all comes from vision. You can kind of withstand, dips and valleys if you got vision.
Yeah. Well, how did you get into the music business?
Ooh. So when I was maybe 15 or 16 years old, I kind of had two choices in my mind for my life. I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player or a musician, a country musician. And so I knew that all the ball players, if you're any good, you had to go to these camps, and all the good ones are kind of taken off from me. I was a good ball player, but I couldn't afford to go to all the stuff these guys were hitting on every weekend. And so I was like, well, I think this choice is gonna get made for me. So I started playing wherever I could. Really hard to form a country band when you're 15 years old. By the way, all the country bands were in their 30s, and they played at bars. But I'd look for nights at the country bars around Northwest Arkansas that allowed like teenagers in one night of the week, like a Sunday night. You can get in if you're with a parent or something like that. And so I'd get up and jam with country bars or country bands, in those places, and eventually formed my first band when I was 18, country band called Joe Nichols and Rodeo. And we started playing like high schools and certain clubs that would let you in to perform if you're underage. Some of those places in Oklahoma, a lot of them in East Texas. And that's how I met my only wife. My first wife. Sound like my dad there. That's kind of how I got started with the touring and everything like that. And I moved to Nashville May of 1997. And that's kind of a whole new story right there. I played a lot of clubs. Did back in the 90s, about the 94, 95, you had a lot of circuit clubs. Like line dancing and country dancing was a big deal. And if you're a country band, you could play 5 nights a week at one bar and then go the next week and play over here in like Tulsa, and then go down to Dallas, and then up to Mount Pleasant, and then over to Texarkana. And you could do that just kind of round the schedule, around the calendar. And that circuit, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas circuit. That's how I kind of grew up playing music. That's where I kind of cut my teeth.
Yeah. Well, once you got to Nashville, what happened?
It's funny. When I was in Arkansas, when I had that little band there, I got an independent record deal on this little label called Inner Sound. And there were 2 people that worked there. There was the president of the label and another guy named David Friedman, who did everything else. So the president was like, all right, I'm the president. And the other guy did everything. And now David, I think, is like the head of Sony or something like that. He's a big deal. Yeah. So anyway, I had that little label, but they did pay for like 4 country videos. And back then, CMT was a really big deal. GAC was a big deal for promotion. If you weren't on the radio, you could get on CMT, and that would help your case at radio. Or at least maybe parlay it into a major label deal as an independent artist. And so I had several videos on CMT that did really well. And then I decided in 1997, I've got a little success. I want to go to Nashville and get a major label deal. Like I've decided I'm going to go do this for real. And left Arkansas behind, went to Nashville. I knew one person in Nashville. I was my guitar player. And then reality hit. It's like, oh, you got to go get a job. It's not just go get a gig playing music, because everybody's a musician. A lot of them play for free. Most of them don't have a place to play. So that was out. Couldn't just go up and get a gig. And so, I went and did karaoke contests. This is no joke. I was like, all right, this place over here on a Sunday night has karaoke contests. You get $250 if you win. And man, I did that. I would win karaoke contests 2 or 3 times a month, and that helped pay bills.
Like rent, yeah.
I hate that. That's not a very trustworthy source of income, but it makes you good. It makes you really want to get good at it. So I did that. I was a cable guy, which was funny. Having the exposure from the videos. I was doing cable on this lady's floor. I was drilling a hole in her floor. I was going to run a cable up from the crawl space, and she taps me on the shoulder and she goes, "Are you Joe Nichols?" I was like, God, what a humbling moment. Like, she's like, "Oh, this is great. You're doing cable now?" I'm like, well, it's a long story. I'm trying to get a major deal, but yeah, that was, it made me feel great and horrible at the same time. Yeah.
How long did it take you to get a deal?
I'd always heard that 5 years was kind of the goal. You know, if you can get something within 5 years, then you know, that's the average. And I moved to town May of '97. I think I got my first deal on Giant Records in spring of '99. So just over 2 years. Yeah. So that was, I was about 6 weeks from going home. You know, I would get any kind of meeting I could with a publisher or with, you know, I mean, mailroom employees, try to get a record label to pay attention or come to a showcase or anything. And just couldn't even get a hello, couldn't get anything going on, couldn't get a meeting or anything. And the meetings I did take, I'd play one song and they'd say, you know, it's really country and there's no room for somebody singing Farewell Party. Like, and that was one of my favorite songs. And I would go in and like, all right, this is my shot. I got a meeting with this big executive at MCA and I'm going to play in Farewell Party. And I'd play that and they're like, do you have anything else? Because that, you ain't got a prayer for that. And I was told no 31 times. And I know this because I sat down at a truck stop when I was contemplating leaving Nashville, just dejected time and time again. And I sat down in a depressing morning with my guitar player, and we got one of these big truck stop napkins, and we started listing out all the people that we had met with. And the 31 people, and all of them said no thanks. And, you know, that was motivation. I was like, damn, that is very, very real, very depressing. I mean, maybe they're right. Maybe I just go home. So I kind of set this clock in my head, like, I'm going to give it maybe 6 weeks before I start kind of making a plan to go back to Arkansas. Maybe I'm just kind of not meant to be on this stage, you know? Maybe I don't fit. And so sometime over the next probably 2 weeks, got a phone call from Brent Rowan, who's a session guitar player, been on, you know, all of the big successful 80s artists, a lot of 70s artists, John Conley, Keith Whitley, tons of records out there from Garth Brooks, Shania Twain to, you know, Randy Travis, all of them. And he called, never produced before. He said, but I really like your voice. He heard an acoustic work tape I did. I really like your voice. I think you got something. You know, I'd like your permission to maybe pitch this to a couple of labels. And I'm like, oh my God, somebody said yes. Absolutely. Let's, you know, whatever I can do, let me know. And a few weeks after that, we were sitting in Doug Johnson's office, Giant Records, and I played him a few songs. Irving Azoff came in from California. I didn't know who that was, and he flew in and happened to be there for something else. And Doug Johnson's like, "Hey, come check this kid out." And I played again. I think I played Farewell Party and a couple of other ones, and they're like, "All right, you know, we're gonna offer you a deal." And I thought that was the biggest thing ever. It was the biggest news I'd ever gotten. They gave me a little signing check, which I promptly bought a Corvette with. I didn't have anything. I had an apartment. And I'm like, you know what would go great with this apartment? A Corvette. But yeah, so that was in June, I think, of 1999. And, you know, cut a few things on that first album, Man with a Memory. There's several songs on there that I actually cut for Giant Records, but they kind of made their way off into Universal. So eventually, Giant Records was absorbed into Warner Brothers. And Jim Ed Norman was the president of Warner Brothers at that time. And when they took in all of Giant's resources and they sifted through the roster, they kept Blake Shelton and I think Neil McCoy and me. And you know, there were great artists like the Wilkinsons were on Giant. A guy named Keith Harling, I don't know if you remember that guy. He was a good guy. Georgia Middleman. And the Kinleys, I think maybe were another one. But it was a good roster. I was extremely lucky. I was like, wow, that I would think, you know, they would probably take some of the artists they've invested a lot of money in, because at that point maybe they'd put in, you know, $10,000 or $15,000 and just kind of put a little studio time behind me, and there's nothing really to go on. But you know, Jim Ed Norman, wonderful human being, and was very, very fair to me. But their vision at Warner Brothers for me was more pop. And I, again, I played farewell parties at these, meetings, and I'm like, I couldn't do Rascal Flatts music. And that was kind of one of the artists that the A&R person was referencing. She was like, the traditional country thing is not working for really anybody. We think you have a look that would be great, and we're going to probably push you toward Rascal Flatts. Tim McGraw is making some good, edgy records, and we think you should go in that direction. We think we can help you. And I said, I could not disagree with you more. It's a heartbreaking thing to realize. And then when I disagree with the head of the A&R, Jim Ed Norman called me in his office, and that would be her and Man with a Memory and a couple other real country songs.
Yeah.
And we had these pieces of music in our hand, and Jim Ed said, I got to go with my A&R people. This is the direction we want to take you, and I understand that the stuff you're recording is nothing like that. But, if you're not going to do it this way, then I don't think we can help you. And so, heartbroken. But he did something really, really great for me. And it's very unusual what he did. You don't find this in Nashville at all. He gave me an opportunity to take that music with me and go somewhere else and find a home with it. Usually a label will shelve you, which means basically put you in timeout, let you think about your disagreement with them. And when they've given you plenty of jail time and you decide to come do it their way, then they pull you off the shelf and we resume the project. But in this case, he let me walk with that music and go find another deal. And he said, I'll tell you what, if in 6 months you don't have another record deal, come back. I'll give you another $25,000. We'll sign you back up. Same deal, same everything. And maybe we'll do it our way. And I'm like, you know what? That's a hell of a deal. I appreciate it. So it kind of gave me a little bit of a security blanket, really. And I'm telling you, that is extremely rare in this business for somebody to do the right thing.
Yeah.
When it benefited him at all, nothing. That didn't benefit him at all. As a matter of fact, if I was to move on to another label and have success with the music I recorded there, it would make him look foolish for letting me walk out the door. But he did the right thing, which is let me go find a home that fit.
Yeah.
And I did. I went immediately when I was free of Warner Brothers. The music I had cut, Man with a Memory, had already kind of created this buzz. And I was playing downtown at Rippy's. I had a little drawing down there, a good draw there, and had kind of just built a buzz around Nashville about what I was doing and kind of going to bring country music back. There was a few of us that around that time that were getting talked about a lot. Josh Turner was another one, and Dierks Bentley.
Yeah.
And so I had a few labels at that point after being told no 31 times. I mean, slammed doors in my face. And one guy fell asleep when I was playing acoustically in his office. The guy put on his shades and he leaned back. And I'm halfway through the first song and I can hear him. And I'm like, damn. That's impressive right there. But, after being told no so many times and then not getting along with the A&R people at Warner Brothers, or not at least seeing the same vision, all of a sudden I had maybe 5 deals sitting in my lap.
Wow.
Right off the heels of Warner Brothers. And it was like a bidding war. It was like, wow, this is, MCA, DreamWorks. That was DreamWorks back then. Lyric Street back then. I think it was DreamWorks, but RCA, Sony, and all their kind of offshoots. Capitol was the only one that kind of got in and kind of got out. But I had all these choices with some really, really talented people. But I wanted to work with Brent Rowan, who was a dear, dear friend of me, and brought me to the party. And this new label was being formed by Tim Dubois and Tony Brown.
Yeah.
And so these guys, to me, I idolized those guys in the business because Tim Dubois was responsible for launching Alan Jackson, Brooks and Dunn, Pam Tillis, Diamond Rio. He actually had a big hand in forming Brooks and Dunn. And so I just respected that guy so much. He just did business the right way. He was a good person, extremely great reputation for knowing what to do, how to build careers, and great knowledge and wisdom around country music, the history of country music, a songwriter himself, and his partner Tony Brown is one of my all-time favorite producers.
Oh yeah,
produced all those George Strait albums for decades.
Played piano for Elvis.
He's got some great Elvis stories. And he kind of ran MCA there for a while, kind of, helped run the place anyway. But I had tremendous respect for these two guys, and they were going to partner up and form this new record label, the two of them, these two massive mogul guys with Universal. And they were going to call it Universal South. And so, I could have gone with the established labels and gotten on a schedule at a RCA or a Lyric Street or one of these, or MCA or Decca, I think even was in there, and had something out in 18 months. Probably an arranged marriage of some kind with production and all that kind of stuff. Or I could put my career in the hands of guys that have done this at the highest level, new label, big time motivation, and I get to keep my producer. It was, like I said, one of my best friends in the world, and I said, "This has got it's no brainer for me."
Yeah.
So we continued. We built on the music that I had, "Man with a Memory," and that would be her, and oh man, one or two more, and then we started building out the album "Man with a Memory" from there. We found "Broken Heartsville," and Joe's Place, and "She Only Smokes and She Drinks." I had a lot of those, and Impossible,
yeah.
had a lot of those songs kind of just coming to me like, I don't know, like magically. Mike Owens was a guy that was an A&R guy there at Universal South. Best song man I ever knew. Like, he could find a hit. He could hear a hit when nobody else could.
Yeah.
It was just a magical guy he was, Mike Owens. He's passed away. He's been gone several years now. But he found Broken Heartsville, Randy Boudreaux song, and Clint Daniels, Blake Mevis, and Donnie Keys. He found Tequila Makes Your Clothes Fall Off.
Oh, wow.
And it was a bad work tape. It was this, I say bad, it was a work tape that was slow, and it was, just one of those writer work tapes where you're like, I can barely hear it for all the banging on the guitar and the vocals, just very songwriter vocal.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
ugh. But it was, but the bones of a great song were there. And Mike Owens played it for me, and I'm like, dude, that's a massive song right there. That's huge. Everybody else was like, what? Because it was almost like a ballad. I'm talking about Tequila Makes Your Clothes Fall Off.
Yeah.
It was so not what it became. If you heard the work tape, you'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe that's the same song. It's a very weird deal. But that first record came together like magic, man. Brent Rowan was an incredible producer, is an incredible producer, great human being, but such a musical mind. He brought in amazing musicians. Chris Thiele played mandolin on a song called "Life Don't Have to Mean Nothing at All," which is a Tom T. Hall song.
Oh, yeah.
Just moments like that. Vince Gill sang backgrounds on several songs on there, including Joe's Place. Vinnie Colaiuta, who was drummer for Frank Zappa and maybe Sting, just a very world-renowned drummer playing on a country album for this unknown guy. And he played on "Man with a Memory," and that would be her and stuff. And so this mixture of just incredible musicians and amazing songs by tremendous writers and Brent Rowan producing for the first time ever, and a new label, Tim Dubois, Tony Brown, these two giant figures in country music. And it's created this chain reaction explosion that launched my career. That was in 2002, March.
Wow. I'll tell you, The Impossible and Broken Heartsville, those two songs are at the top of the list for me any day of the week.
Sometimes people ask me what my favorite song that I've ever done. For many, they've kind of all got their great things about them. Tequila's made me the most money. But and Sunny in 75, I don't know that I've ever had a song that's been on weather channels as much as that one has, weather people across the country. Every spring I get just tweets and tweets and tweets of weather people. But but Broken Heartsville, the Impossible launched my career. So I'll always have a special place to that. First #1 song, R&R, country chart song. But Broken Heartsville was the first song that I believe I put my stamp on, that people recognized that that's my voice. I believe that would have been a hit for anybody. I believe it felt to me like a big George Strait song. And I want to say, I could be wrong about this, but I want to say he had it first and didn't cut it for whatever reason. Maybe didn't get time with it or maybe turned it down, but I'm sure thankful he didn't.
Yeah.
That's my favorite song I've ever done. I wish I had 50 more like it.
Yeah, I've never met Randy Boudreaux, but he's from the same neck of the woods as I am down in Louisiana.
Oh, yeah, Louisiana?
Man, that and Alibis he wrote.
Oh, yeah.
So he wrote some good ones, man.
Man, he did. We used to hang around with each other quite a bit back in the 2003 to 2006 years, and I had to slow down. I couldn't keep up with him. He's a wildcat, man. He was so much fun. Yeah, he's an incredible writer. He had one that I really wanted to cut called Whiskey Kind of Way. I don't know if you've ever heard that. It might have been done by Jared Neiman back then, but I thought it was a great country song. Hell, I still might cut that for this album. Yeah, but
yeah. Well, you got plenty of really great new straight up country stuff coming out.
Yeah.
Do you know when that's coming out?
The first song, "Goodbyes Are Hard to Listen To," is the one I shared with you. October 10th, right? October 10th.
Oh, right around the corner.
Right around the corner, yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting because I'm telling y'all, it's straight up hardcore country. But I want to go back to your career though, because I mean, man, you were just on fire there for a while. And I was talking to Gary Gentry the other day. He's a great songwriter friend of mine. He wrote "The Ride" in 1959 and a bunch of those songs. And I was telling him that I was going to have you on. He was asking me, who you going to have on? I said, Joe Nichols is coming on. He said, man. He said, I love Joe Nichols. He was such a great voice. He was like, whatever happened to Joe?
I see that all the time. Like, where did he go? Hell, sometimes I'm like, where did I go? What happened? I've lived a very unusual career path. We talked about Gary Allan earlier. It's a very unusual, story that he has.
Yeah.
Mine is weird. It's I've had tremendous success, and then I'll go away for a couple of years. And then I'll come back with a couple of #1s, and then kind of fade out again. And I've done that like 3 or 4 times, and I'll never forget one of those not Jake Owen tweets. It said Joe Nichols has had more comebacks than the McRib. I see. I'll take that as a compliment, sir. Thank you very much. But there's a lot of factors in there that some were out of my control, but some were, and I wouldn't suggest this path for anybody.
Yeah.
I would suggest you do it the easy way, or take the recommendations of people that have been there before. Don't do what this guy did, which is, I don't care what anybody says. I'm doing it my way. Because, you'll have to come back many times, and people will wonder where you've been. So maybe listen to people that have done it before.
Well, I'm so glad that you're coming out with new stuff, because you just have one of those voices that is meant to be heard.
Thank you very much. This is very kind of you. I'm excited for people to hear this new stuff, because I've seen that people have been very visible by, I wish he would get back to the old stuff that he used to play. I mean, I've seen that, and it's a fair criticism, really. To get on the radio, you kind of got to give radio a product that they believe in. And, I've handed them songs like Billy Graham's Bible, which I think is a brilliant song. And it's one of the better vocals, that I've ever done. I thought it could have worked at radio had radio had a little more open mind at that time. This was pre-Zach Top, and pre some of the countryer things that have now created that space. But it's like handing them, a moon rock or something. They're like, I don't even know what to do. What is that? It's a country song. You think we're going to play that on radio? It's not going to happen. And a lot of the comments that I would get when I would turn in or deliver to radio these traditional country songs is, how am I, the radio station or program director, how am I going to make that song fit next to Florida Georgia Line,
right,
and Thomas Rhett? That's what's hot in the format. So is Billy Graham's Bible going to be bookended by these two things that are not even in the same galaxy? And they had a good point. I got it. It's just heartbreaking to hear that, the country stuff, the traditional country stuff, doesn't matter how good it is, it's got no chance because it doesn't fit with the other things in the format.
Right.
So we all heard that a million times. That's too country for country. All the traditional guys that I'm familiar with, they've all heard it. We've all heard that.
Do you think now, though, in the day that we're living in with social media and streaming and stuff, a lot of that power has been taken from the radio and put back to the people, it seems like?
I believe that wholeheartedly. I believe that we can build our own fan bases now, which is funny. It's kind of up to us and the fans to build the chemistry and create buzz and kind of backdoor radio, if you will.
Yeah.
Like, do something that creates energy and buzz and streams and creates this excitement, and radio will kind of catch on the backside of it. And I guess it's already streaming great, so I guess we'll play that.
Yeah.
Rather than go to them and say, will you please play this so it will stream? It's kind of working the opposite now. It's like, oh, this is streaming great. I guess y'all can play it if you want to. It doesn't really matter now. We've already gotten there. So I do think it's changing the game. I love that we can go directly to the fans and bring them a song like Goodbyes Are Hard to Listen To. And if it streams great. If it doesn't, that's also fine. We can do another song in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We have 30 of these things we can come out over the next year and a half. And maybe 4 or 5 or 8 or 9 will raise their hand and say, I think this one belongs on the radio.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this, for sure, this album and everything going forward will be like my first couple albums, because I don't really want those rules anymore. I love radio, and I always want hits on the radio. It always feels good to have a number one song.
Yeah.
And radio's done so much for me over the years. Like, they've really given me a lot more than I deserve. And so I always want to have radio hits. But I think the rules for making music has changed a little, which means I don't go into the studio with this pre-required set of things like, it's got to be 3 minutes, it's got to be tempo, up-tempo, maybe non-relationship, maybe, this kind of beat, that kind of beat, love song. If it's going to be a ballad, it's got to be this kind of beat, maybe a collaboration of some kind. There's just no rules for me right now. And I think that's a freeing feeling, and it would allow me to make another album like Revelation or Man with a Memory or 3 or Real Things. And that's what I'm working on, man. This album I'm working on now has excited me, and everybody I work with will probably agree with this. I've not been excited about music like this in 15 years. Easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just mentioned a song that I can't pass up, which is Revelation. Bobby Braddock tune. Bobby's a friend of mine, and I asked him about that song specifically, the story behind it and stuff. You cut it. Of course, Waylon, Keith Whitley, I guess he didn't get a studio cut on it, but he had the tape on it. What a song, man. And you sing the heck out of that song. Thank you.
I appreciate it. I heard the Keith Whitley version, the bus tape version, along with a lot of, he did a lot of those for Cause, that his guitar player, I believe it was guitar player / sound guy maybe. But you'd hear Keith Whitley, you press record on the boombox and he goes, all right, I'm playing Revelation for Cause. And He had another one called High Steel and Memories. I don't know if you've ever heard that song.
Oh, man, yeah.
Played that on a bus tape. You got to hear that one on a bus tape. He's got many of those. I have them somewhere.
She Never Got Me Over You, that one.
I don't know that one.
Oh,
I got to hear it.
Boy, you like that one. She Never Got Me Over You. I'll text it to you. So
I love some Keith Whitley deep dives, man.
Yeah.
I get into an unhealthy like trance where it's, hours later I'm like, my wife's like, you haven't blinked in 7 hours. I'm like, I'm just listening to some Keith Whitley. I kind of go into that unhealthy place. Yeah.
I've got a whole file of Keith Whitley that's got all those tapes on it, and it's got some like live stuff on it. Him doing rose-colored glasses.
Oh yeah,
and stuff like that. I'll send it all to you because
that'd be great, man.
It's
I love that.
Gems in there.
Heck yeah.
But that Revelation, man, what a great song, Bobby.
Yeah.
What a writer. I mean,
man, sure enough. Time Marches On. He Stopped Limit Her Today. I mean,
DIVORCE, Golden Ring, all them tunes.
Golden Ring. Yeah, love his mind is so unique. Brilliant man. I love that he's got a good perspective on, current the current state of being a singer and songwriter. I saw him do an interview, I think maybe on NPR, where he talked about the number one commodity among singers now is not chops. It's not how on pitch you are. It's really how much personality you can put into a vocal.
Yeah.
Because technology has made us all good singers. We can all tune everything now. We don't really have to be good, but we need to be able to be distinguished from the next person. So, that's more valuable than being good, that you can tell somebody apart. And so he's right. I think, this current age, we're all slaves of the computers. We just got to be noticeable different.
I asked Bobby, I said, you wrote a number one in 5 consecutive decades, 50 years.
Wow.
Which is incredible. How do you do that? And he said, well, I like to listen to the radio, what's new. Not always country either. I'll listen to, a lot of times pop's ahead of country, so I listen to what they're doing. He said, in fact, my favorite song right now is My Humps by Fergie.
I did not see that coming.
Bobby Braddock going down the highway listening to My Humps.
I love the radio. What? All right. Well, I can't imagine what's going on in his head right now. What's coming out next?
No telling. No telling.
Oh, man. He's one of a kind, man. But you're right. That Revelation song is that whole album, I'm glad we called it Revelation because it was a very heavy time for me personally. After my first album was done, we put it out. Impossible was doing great. My dad passed away, and it was just like one of those heart wrenching deals. He was like my biggest cheerleader. He was a musician, and so he taught me a lot. Brought me to a lot of beer joints with him, in VFW halls where he'd play, and I watched him throughout my childhood. Wanted to be just like him, and he had a great voice, and so I wanted to make him so proud with music because I feel like he would have been a very successful artist had he gotten a shot, had he really tried and went to Nashville. Just such a good voice, and in a way, I was doing this as like this is for you too, Dad. I think you deserve this too, and then he passed away. He was sick and passed away. It just really wrecked me because, I really didn't have a lot of mentors really that I could kind of call and that I would trust anyway. And when he passed away, it sent me to a really bad depression. And that whole Revelation album you can hear it. Like every song on there is pretty heavy. Yeah. There's a lot of God on that album. And Jesus in Revelation, that's the big payoff line in that. And there stood Jesus Christ in all his glory. Yeah. And that's kind of a no-no sometimes. When you put Jesus in a song, you're taking a little bit of a chance because, some people in positions at record labels, they're like, this would be great if you just took Jesus out of that. Yeah. Which I'm very proud to to say that I've been approached many times with that, and every single time I have said I would rather die a bloody death than do something like that.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, we had a song called "We All Carry Something," and I was on Red Bow at the time. I'm gonna tell this story, Kendra. So I had this song. It's a brilliant song, and it's a beautiful vocal, and it's called "We All Carry Something." These verses are very powerful. We talk about a baby that was born addicted to alcohol because of the mama, and a boy that grew up in a trailer park, and kind of got roughed up by his pops, and just heart-wrenching story after story. And the message is, we all carry something. We're all carrying some stuff. And the last payoff verse was about Jesus. He carried that cross through those city streets, for us.
Right.
We all carry something. He carried it all. And the label, one of the leaders at the label said, we need a lyric change in this song, and then we can, potentially put this out as a single. 'Cause I think it's a smash. And they said, we just need to change the Jesus, maybe a little more generic, something not religious, pull back on that. And I said, I'd rather die a violent death than do something like that. You've given me an opportunity to feel like a great human being right now. And you can take the success and the money and everything else, but I get to be proud of this kind of decision right now and say, I don't want a damn dollar.
Yeah.
That's worth fighting for. And they stuck to their word. They put it on a shelf. It is what it is. I ain't got to live with that. They do.
Yeah.
Like I said, I can look back at all the moments that I've had in my career that have been great moments. Awards and all these kinds of things are wonderful. But it's moments like that I'll tell my kids and my grandkids, hopefully my great-great-grandkids, like, that's how you don't ever lose that. Don't ever lose that compass.
Well, I think that says a lot about your character and integrity, to stick by your faith and what you believe in. And that's more important than money, because you can't take it with you when you go.
That's right. I have, don't get me wrong, I have not always been this virtuous man that I've presented myself to be. But this is much later. But I did get a chance. I have gotten many chances to kind of correct my earlier behavior, and knowing what God's done in my life and how He's shown up so many times, and just changed everything about me, and stood up for me. How dare I abandon Him after how many times He stood up for me, and propped me up on His shoulders, and my goodness, what an honor it is to be able to have some principle, some kind of standard right there, and say, no, man, it's my turn to stand up for Jesus.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, if you just open your eyes and look, you'll see God everywhere, and you'll see Him so much that you can't deny that He's real.
Absolutely. And it's funny, a wise person once told me as well, is if you shut up, you'll also hear Him talking.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you quiet your own voice down a little bit, which I have a problem doing sometimes, because I think I'm right a lot. My wife likes to remind me I'm not. But very valuable wisdom, just quiet everything down, just 10 minutes at a time, and just listen, and you'll hear Him speak. And it'll be thunderous loud,
Yeah.
Just not a noise in a room, but you'll hear that voice louder than anything else, and it's usually dead on, exactly what you need to hear at that moment.
Yeah. Well, you've told us some really good stories, and it's been great hearing about your career. I'm wondering if you got one more good story in you.
Well, what do you?
A good road story.
Millions of good stories. What are we rated here? We're G-rated, PG?
We're rated whatever you want to go.
Right.
No holdbacks here. I'm the owner.
So I sat down the other day. I had a very, you probably know this, a lot of people do in country music. We're talking about the career having, peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
It's been my fault several times. The valleys, I've done plenty to harm myself over the years, mostly because of my erratic and wild and less than stellar behavior. I was raging alcoholic for many years and got into all kinds of stuff actually, and very destructive kind of personality. And my ideal death, and this is no kidding, my growing up idolizing Keith Whitley. If I drank myself to death, I would find that to be a big honor. And I know that sounds really nuts. I've told my wife this, and she's like, "You realize that is insanity. That's not normal thinking." But there's something in my head that has always said, that's exactly how I want to do this. I want to drink myself to death, make great music that people will admire, and then die at an early age having this weird, what could have been a tragic story. And that's got to be such a sick psychology break somewhere early on in my childhood.
Waylon called it the Hank Williams syndrome. You ever heard that song? He has a whole song about that called the Hank Williams syndrome.
Really?
And how he got over that, you know.
I have not heard this, but
I'll send that to you.
Now I have to hear this. Oh my, I'm a pretty big Waylon fan, so I'm surprised I haven't heard that. But is it what I'm talking about? You have to.
Yeah, it's about, you know, and from what I understand, Keith was the same way. From George Jones and Ralph Stanley.
Yeah.
You know, in order to be a good country musician, you have to be an alcoholic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
That's all right. I
didn't mean to interrupt you, but
no, I'm glad to hear that. It's a weird thing, and I've met all kinds of other really talented singers that think that way too. So I know it's not just me or a few of us. It really does seem like the highest honor to drink until I die at an early age, having done this, you know, small body of work, but masterpieces.
Yeah.
And never live long enough to fade off or ride off into the sunset. By the way, my thinking has changed. I'm like, no. Sunset sounds pretty good, guys. Riding off in the sunset's pretty nice. But when I'm, 25, 30 years old, I tried really hard over and over again in multiple different ways to kill myself. I'm not supposed to say kill. I don't think I'm supposed to say it. You got to edit that out, I guess. I tried multiple ways to unalive myself, mostly with booze or some kind of substance I'd put in my body, and just crazy behavior. What was our topic again? I was going to say this. What was it?
Jason.
You writing.
Oh, the writing the song. Oh, yeah. So I sat down to write some of this stuff down. My wife says, we can laugh about some of this stuff. The stories are, pretty funny. I'll hear stories about what I've done. Somebody will come up to me in a meet and greet and go, "You remember this one time and you did this and you were over here and this happened?" I'm like, "Oh my God, yeah." They told me about it. So the other day I sat down with Jason Sellers and Paul Jenkins and just started sharing some of the stories that I lived through, and then some of the more playful ones, that's PG rated, some of the stuff that I've survived. I mean, I'm talking about car crashes, accidents, weird accidents, just some of the most ridiculous things you could imagine. Just 9 lives. And I had somebody else's 9 lives too, I think. But I wrote a song about it, about some of the funnier ones, man. I can't remember what it's called, but I went to Hank Jr.'s house. First time I spent time with Hank Jr. And I thought I was good. He wanted to go hunting. He wanted to take me turkey hunting. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Let's go hunting. And he's like, he said, you ever been hunting before? I'm like, oh, yeah. Lie. I've been hunting before, but I never took it serious. I grew up in Arkansas, so a lot of people hunted, but I never had a rifle, so I didn't really get to hunt that much. I was more into fishing. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, yeah, we'll go hunting. Bring your 12 gauge, and we'll go do this and this. And I'm like, all right, I'll do that. I had to go get a 12 gauge. At that time, I hadn't gotten into guns yet, but I did after that. So I'm thinking I'm going to go down to Buchanan, Tennessee, over there and hang out with Hank Jr. for a couple of days, and we're going to get hammered, and we're going to play Blues Man and Family Tradition, and we're just going to sit around a campfire and play music. And that's what I thought was going to happen. Well, Hank Jr. really meant hunting. So I was like, oh, man. And CMT came and brought a camera crew down there. They were going to do this. They were going to do this show, excuse me. They were going to do this show with Hank Jr. called Hank's Wildlife Adventures or something like that. And this was going to be one of the first episodes of this show. He's going to take me hunting for turkeys. And he thought I'd been hunting before. I was a hunter. And it was a train wreck. It was a disaster. I showed up and I got this gun I never fired before, and I got this half-gallon of whiskey, and I got a guitar, and I'm like, all right, it's gonna be a good time. And he's like, oh. Anyway, he handed me this turkey call, and it's a drum, a little drum thing, and a striker, which I didn't know what the hell it was. He handed it to me. He goes, here, work on that. We'll get your gobble, whatever, right? And I'm like, and he turns that way. The camera's on me, and I'm like, and it's at this age right now, I can look back and go, my God, that had to be the dumbest thing anybody has ever done on camera. It's literally like a pencil.
Yeah.
But in a little drum that you chirp on this little thing, and that's how you make a little turkey sound. I thought you just somehow got air to come through this thing, and it was like, and he turned around and saw me. He's like, what the hell is wrong with you? What are you doing? Like, why are you doing that? I'm like, I don't know how this works. I don't know what I'm doing. And I think at that moment, he's like, oh no, oh God, okay. He's never been hunting before. And so it was just thing after thing with him. And of course I was drinking the whole time. You know, at the time I didn't eat much fish either. Wasn't very cultured at the time. I didn't eat much fish. And he brought out this, an enormous pile of grouper that he just caught with Kid Rock down in the Gulf. And he's going to fry it all up here. This family recipe fish fry. And he's making a big show of it. It's a really big deal to him. Family recipe, passed down. And again, all on camera with CMT. And he's frying this fish. He's go through the presentation, and he pulls this fish out of the fryer and hands me the first batch of it. The only fish I liked at that time was Long John Silver's. That was it. That was as far as my fish palate went. And so I took a bite, and I'm like, that's better than Long John Silver's. And he was like, are you shitting me? I was paying it a compliment, but he's like, what in the hell is wrong with this kid? And so it kept getting worse, you know, and of course I was getting a little hammered and everything. I didn't really think he was serious when he said, we're going to get up about 3:30, 4 o'clock. I'm going to hit that blind out there. And I was like, okay. But next morning, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. He's like, all right, we're late. Come on, get that blind. And all morning long, you know, he'd call these turkeys in from the brush line. And I'm sitting there in the blind, just like, please God, just take this hangover away from me. Just please. And he said, you cannot make a sound. You know, turkeys can hear everything. So you have to be very still. You can have your shotgun pointed out toward where they're going to walk to and, you know, lure them in and then shoot them. You can't do no movement. You'll scare them off. You never call them in. So he'd get these things coming up there, and I'd be, you know, he's like, oh my God, they're right here. We did that for hours, and I know he had to be seething like, I'm never doing this again. I'm never doing this again with this guy over here just snoring. I'm waking him up to take a shot. Too late to take a shot at turkey. We finally got one at the end of the day. I mean, we'd almost given up, and it was like, let's try one more thing. And we ended up killing a turkey, but it was a disaster. That whole day was a disaster. The whole thing. I ran into Hank a couple of months ago, did a show with him in South Carolina, and we caught up. And we started talking about the Joe Nichols blind. I'm like, the what? He said, I never told you I named that blind after you. I was like, you did what? He goes, that was such a traumatic, funny, awesome story, because he had a way more story about it. He goes, I had to name that blind after you, after the disaster that was, you know, like I said, I'm not doing the story justice. There was just so many things. I was like, Hank, I'm honored that you would name your blind after me. And I'm humiliated at the same time that it was for such an embarrassing reason. But he had a lot of fun with that, man. He was so funny. Such a good hang, man. That guy is one of a kind. I mean it.
Did they ever release the show?
I think so. I don't know. But I mean, rather than having a wildlife show where you're like, all right, this is a professional deal. They went out and they killed turkeys and this is how you did that. It was a train wreck. The show was just, I'm an idiot. Basically,
Turned
everything.
into a comedy.
Right. It was a comedy. It was like, this is what not to do, guys. If you want to kill a turkey, don't take that guy. Don't do any of the stuff that he just did. But yeah, I'm sure that footage exists somewhere.
I'm going to try to dig it up.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I've had so many of those things where, not only has my career survived, but I didn't die or anything like that. Luke Bryan is a friend of mine, go way back. We did a show in Jacksonville, Florida, a big stadium down there, and there's like 50,000 people at this show. And I decided that right in the middle of Luke's very serious moment at his stage, he's got the lights down, it's a very serious moment, took off my shirt, went kind of full steam down at the end of the stage, bear hugged Luke, scared the crap out of him and all of his team and everything like that. I'm flipping off the crowd, just almost naked. And I'm like, we're having a good time, right? Look at this guy. And moments like that over and over again throughout the years. Like I said, we can laugh about it now. Made it to the other side. But, things like that. I've had many of those where I come back and I visit with a doctor in Nashville, and the doctor will be like, are you into recreational activities? Like you doing a little too much drinking, or you doing a little too much of, the wild nightlife? And I must have looked like the biggest idiot in the world when I would look at him with these puppy dog eyes and go, no, no, I not at all. I pretty much into my Bible when I'm out on the road, and I'd take a beer every now and then. And, that old standard answer, maybe a glass of wine at dinner. Bull crap. It was hardcore. Just, a gallon or two of whiskey a day at least. And that went on for years, and you can imagine the craziness that comes along with that. So I've done a lot of years of apologizing, and kind of repairing a lot of, of my reputation with friends. And like, man, you remember when we did this and we were in that show together? I had a fight with another artist, and that was great. Just trashed this hotel room, beating the crap out of each other. I'm not going to say who it is. But stuff like that, getting in fights with people, miraculously not, in jail or dead or something. Just showing my ass for years. But finally, actually 7 years ago, Tuesday or Wednesday, 7 years ago, drank my last drink. So it's been 7 years.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. 7 years. That, and if you knew me, October 1st and before 2018, you would not believe that. That is just a very unlikely thing to ever happen. So when we talk about God showing up, I could not do that myself. I tried to quit drinking many, many times. To every physical thing I could put in my life, I did to keep myself from drinking, and I just couldn't or wouldn't. And man, one day, with the suggestion of another person, I really, truly got on my knees and I asked God to remove whatever this is in my brain that will not let me function without thinking about drinking. Whether I was drinking or not drinking, I always thought about it and I was obsessed with it somehow. And I'm kidding you not, that ended that day. I mean, I've done other things along with that, but that's when something's happened in my brain that I can't explain, and I've asked doctors to explain it. Like, how did this just automatically leave my brain? Doesn't make sense. I didn't take a pill for it. There was no aha moment, like a Zen moment, like I finally figured out the secret of life. It was just, I did that one thing. I asked God to remove this from my brain, and he did. And I can't explain it other than God is real, and he showed up and he showed it to my face, and he went, You asked, here you go. And I haven't thought about that since. I do not think about that. It's just wild to me.
Man, that's
Isn't that
wonderful.
crazy?
That's T. Graham Brown has a similar story. It come to that for him too, and just like you said, prayed, never drank again.
Man, I know a lot of people have to. Everybody has to walk their own path and kind of find things out from themselves, especially when it comes to their faith. But I will tell everybody who will ever listen to my dying breath, especially my children, who, for the most part, never had to see this guy, or never had to see the other guy. But I'll tell them to my dying breath that I never need another minute of proof. He's shown me, not only does he show up, but he's right there, one breath in his direction. All you got to do, like I said, is stop talking and just look at him. And he's right there waiting to just give you life.
Yeah.
And if I do nothing else, that's the main mission I have for my daughters. Just make sure they understand that one thing at the very minimum.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Joe, I know you told me earlier you've been in the studio all day and you're probably tired. So, but this has been such a joy just to sit down and catch up with you. Like I said, I've been a fan of yours since I was a kid, literally. And,
I'm a fan of your channel, man. I watch you all the time. I watch all your content. You got some great interviews. I love that you value the history of country music, because I love that. I love the old bus tapes, the history, the stories behind, some of the greatest records ever, and, some of the wildest people in country music.
Yeah.
George Jones, I'm sure you got a mountain of those things, the Johnny Cash stories. So I appreciate you bringing that to a younger generation, because there's a lot of stuff in country music that kids don't know about. And I think you're able to give it to them in big numbers, those stories. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you. That means a lot coming from you. It really does. Yeah. I tell people all the time, to me, the history of country music so rich, and all those stories of all of our heroes, it's just as keeping that alive to me is just as important as the music is.
Yeah, I could sense that with all the old timers before they passed away. I know that I've talked to Merle quite a bit about this kind of thing. I love Merle for many reasons, but I think he saw something in me that is what we're talking about. Like, hey, you get it. Carry this on, protect it, be good with it. And I remember he called me one time when I was getting a little out of control, and I think I'd just gone to rehab, and he called me like a dad would, and to tell me that he's disappointed in me, which broke my freaking heart. But at the same time, told me all the great things that were in store for me. Like, I'm proud of you for all these things, and I'm super disappointed that you've allowed this to happen. Now, here's what's going to be in your path. Now, listen to me. I value that as much more than anything, outside of my family. But we have to pass on the tradition and honor the old timers, man. The Merle and the Buck Owens and the George Jones and the Waylon Willie. We have to honor those guys by telling their stories. And one day, the younger generation is going to look at us and go, what do we do? What would you guys do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we got to be ready for that answer. You know what I mean? So like I said, it makes me feel great to know that you're out here spreading the word about the history of country and keeping alive the traditional side of country music, which there's thank God there's a growing number of fans of traditional country. But yeah, man, let's honor the old guys always, the older and men and women.
Yeah.
Let's honor them every time we get a chance.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Well, we're going to keep on keeping on, and you got some great country music coming out right around the corner. The 10th, you said?
October 10th. And I'm going to share it with you as it comes in. I'll
Yeah.
You're the only one I'm gonna share it with.
Yeah, keep me in the loop.
But
I'm
will share
loving it.
Heck yeah.
I'm loving it. Well, Joe, I appreciate you for doing this. We're going to do it again one day.
Yeah, let's do it.
And y'all just be on the lookout for this album. It's right around the corner. It's solid country gold and
Right
really great stuff. I think you got some big days ahead of you, Joe.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.